Hello, Joanne Wilson here, and today we're going to install and configure Wordfence. Wordfence is a security plugin for WordPress. It also offers a firewall for your website, and it has a lot of amazing features in this free version that we're going to be using. Let's go to Plugins and Add New. Just type in Wordfence. It's going to be this first one that pops up. As you can see, it has over 1 million active installations, 3,227 reviews, all with a 5-star rating. It's a really cool plugin to use to help secure your website. So let's just click Install Now. And then once it's installed, we just click Activate. Now you are taken to this panel that wants you to input your email address. You will want to get this email so that you can receive email alerts from your Wordfence installation. So go ahead and put in an email address. Also, this asks if you'd like to join their mailing list. It can be a good idea. I already get these notifications, so for me, I'm going to choose no. And then you have to check that you agree to their terms and privacy policy. Click Continue. If you've purchased the premium version of Wordfence, you would put the premium key here. We are just going to be using the free version, so we'll click on No Thanks. Now, the next thing that comes up, it asks you that you need to do something about is, do you want Wordfence to stay up to date automatically? And just click Yes. After that, we're going to want to configure our firewall. So we'll click here to configure. From here, the first thing I want to do is download the htaccess file. Sometimes it will give you an INI file to also download. This is going to depend on your hosting company, your WordPress install, anything that might be particular to your settings. So go ahead and click that to download that and save it somewhere. Okay, the next thing we do is just click on Continue. A word about this. Wordfence automatically will give you default settings, and there's no reason to change this unless you know for sure it's something else. I've never changed this, and I've never had an issue with it. So just leave it. Now click Continue. Now that is done, we can click Close. You can continue to set up the firewall options in this window. However, I like to go to the All Options panel, because then all of the options for all of Wordfence are in one place, and we can do that all at one time. So click on All Options and then Expand All. There's this button here. And we don't have to bother with opening and closing. This is the license key for the free version. Everyone's given a free license key. If you do upgrade to the premium version, then that key would go into this field right here. View customization. This would be up to your Preferences, I don't turn any of these on, so I just leave it at to the default. We clicked this, check this at the very beginning, update Wordfence automatically, which is something we want. If you change your email address, you would want to come back to the screen here under the general Wordfence options and change your email address. And we leave these settings the same. A couple things you're going to want to check is hide WordPress version, disable code execution for uploads directory. I have seen malicious code uploaded to the uploads directory, so disable that. And everything else I will leave just as the default settings. Next, dashboard notifications, that we will leave. Leave this unchecked. Email me when Wordfence is automatically updated. You could get way too many emails having that checked. I would keep this checked, all of these checked. I don't want to get an email every time an IP gets blocked. This would be of concern to me, alert when someone is locked out from login, because most of my sites and the sites I've done only have a couple of admin users. Even if you are a client that has an e-commerce website, you may want to know when a customer has gotten locked out so that you can be proactive and say, hey, I noticed you were trying to access the website. Do you need help getting access to it? So this would just, I would leave that. And then that might be of interest to know. I check this to only send me alerts when an administrator signs in from a new device or location. I don't need to get that many emails. Same with the non-admin user. And alert me when there's a large increase in attacks. I do keep that checked as well. You can select how often you want to get an email summary. You will be getting alerts from WordPress all the time, but they also send out a summary. When you're just doing this, maybe weekly is something you want to set up. That's usually more than enough summaries. If you stay on top of it, you're getting those emails anyway. So I usually just, for me, I do once a month, but this is going to just be up to you. Now we're back down here to the firewall options. One thing you'll notice is when this automatically puts in puts your website in learning mode for the firewall, it doesn't automatically go into effect, and it puts it up for a week. You can change that date to a date sooner than that week, or you can just have it tell it to enable and start protecting right away. Learning mode is helpful, especially when you have page builders, because I've seen the Wordfence block some of those page builders because it doesn't recognize the function that it's trying to do. So learning mode's a good idea if you're going to be working on your site. And if you start having trouble with it, you can always come back and put it back into learning mode while you're doing some updating and then take it back out. There's nothing to be changed in that section. Now, brute force protection is something that's important, and we want to make sure that it's on. By default, they set this to 20 tries, and that's way too many tries. 4 or 5 is more than enough. And count failures over what time, a certain time period. So even if they tried within 4 hours, one every 4 hours, and you can also put a lockout time. Now, just be aware that if for some reason you get locked out, this would apply to you. You would still be locked out for, if you set it for 12 hours, you'd be locked out for 12 hours. There are ways of going in and deactivating Wordfence, but you would need to do that through your file manager in your hosting account or through FTP. Otherwise, just be prepared that this could apply to you. So be careful what you set this to. Don't click immediately lock out invalid usernames because you could accidentally type in the wrong username. I put in a few immediately block the IP of users who try to sign in with. There are a few typical usernames that hackers use, and admin is number 1, and admin with a capital A. So you have to put those in separately. Administrator, oops. And another one I've seen them use is your website name, its domain name itself without the .net or .com. So I would add that to this. Oops, that was misspelled. There we go. I would check this one right here. Everything else can remain the default settings. This is another area, rate limiting. We want to immediately block fake Google crawlers. What this does, if any person or crawler hits your site too quickly, too fast, then you can throttle it or slow it down. So you can also block it, but there's no reason to block most of these. Of course, if a human page views exceed 120 a minute, I'm probably gonna, well, I'll probably block it, but for now we'll just keep it at throttle. And they shouldn't be 404 errors or pages that aren't found. So if a human's looking for pages and they're not finding it, then they're probably up to some no good. So let's just block that. And especially if they're looking for known vulnerable URLs, I'm probably going to block them too. So these settings are just based on people's personal preference. And there are some other videos out there that those people will show you different settings and go into more detail on Wordfence as far as the live traffic view that you can get. I'm not going to go into the live traffic view options right now because the main part is just to get this Wordfence configured so that it can be protecting your site, and there are enough videos out there to show you additional options. Leave this set at default, the scan scheduling. You can have a lot more options if you have the premium version, but this one works just fine. I've never had a problem. You're going to want to check to scan the theme files and plugin files from the repository version so that when these need updating, Wordfence will notify you, especially your plugins, because vulnerabilities can be add up put into a plugin that is out of date, so keep up with those. For me, I don't check this one, scan files outside of your WordPress installation, because I usually have many sites on one hosting account. Therefore, that could cause a problem and a conflict. If you only have one site on your hosting account, then you would want to go ahead and check this. And scan images, binary, and other files as if were executable. If you have any questions, you can always click these question marks. They will pop open in a new tab. Go to the Wordfence website and load up information about it. Of course, this is not loading very fast right now, so we'll just come back and let that do its thing. Because I use shared hosting, I always check this, use low resource scanning. Wordfence has a bad reputation for being a resource hog. So especially if you are on shared hosting, then you should use low resource scanning so that your website host doesn't throttle you and slow your website down. You get a nasty email from them saying, hey, your website's using too many resources. So click that. A few more settings that don't really pertain to us. Live traffic options, I turn that off because it does use more resources, and again, there are other videos out there that can go into more detail about what the live traffic options will do for you. For us and our purposes, we're just going to leave that off. And that looks like that's about it. If you accept comments, you can keep those on. There's no reason to have them off. Just it's a nice extra security measure that Wordfence has. Yeah, when we're all done, we just click Save Changes. That's all. There it goes. And this page finally came in, and see where this is where we had asked it to tell us more about that certain area. So if you want to know anything more about a certain area, just click on those little question marks. Okay. Now you don't get a really good idea when this is done saving without sitting there and watching it to quit working, but you'll notice that the Save Changes button is no longer active. It's dimmed out. So that tells you there as well that those changes have been saved. And finally, let's go over here to Scan. Just show you that window. You can go through this different information if you want. I'm going to X that out. When you run a scan, you will get different results in here, and it will tell you things such as when a plugin needs to be updated, if a file has been changed, what those changes are. You can look at them. You can get a lot of detail from the scan. This will scan automatically once a day, usually. If you want to start a scan, all you would do is click this button, Start New Scan. So we're going to just do that, and I'm going to pause this for a moment while it finishes scanning. And as this is working, you'll see it gets check marks when it's completed a certain stage. The first 3 items are premium features. but again, I've never had a problem with one of my websites where the clients have kept their plugins updated, their themes updated, and paid attention to their Wordfence notifications. The only websites that have had a problem are those that don't keep those items updated. I'm going to put this on pause again so that instead of sitting here and waiting for this to finish working, because it could take a few minutes. All right, the scan is completed. It scanned it in 2 minutes and 22 seconds. Sometimes it can take longer than that. We got blue check marks all the way across. Everything's looking good with our site so far. That's it. That's how to install and configure Wordfence.